Have you ever wondered what your rabbit is really trying to tell you? Whether it's odd behavior, sudden mood changes, or things you just can't figure out, there's always a reason. So today we're decoding your bunny's behavior with the bunny coach, Fiona Murphy. All you doggies, won't you walk with me? I'm the puppet dog. Welcome to the Animal Intuitive channel. I'm Angelo Webb, owner of Animal Intuitive Academy, Intuitive Touch Animal Care. I'm nationally board certified in animal acupressure massage, and for over 20 years I've worked as a professional animal communication instructor. I'm also a licensed therapist, and I help to deepen the bond between people and animals. So before we dive in, if you're not already subscribed, I am begging you to please do so. I try not to do this at the beginning, but I've really got to catch you guys. We're trying to grow the channel and bring more educational content that helps you and your pets. And so I really hope that you'll stick around, subscribe, click the like button. That really helps the show grow. And also leave us a comment. And we do have a chat here. So we are going to be in the chat answering your questions. And this is going to help people who love their pets find these important conversations and instructional videos. So today we're giving rabbits a voice with my guest, Fiona Murphy, also known as the Bunny Coach. And Fiona is a rabbit behavior specialist who helps families understand and overcome common bunny challenges with compassion and expertise. And we're going to be exploring lots of things, including what causes aggression and how to calm it, many other things, and also what the keys are to creating a happier, more harmonious bond between you and your bunny. So if you're ready to really understand your rabbit on a deeper level, grab your tea, get cozy, your coffee, and let's get ready to talk with Fiona. So welcome, Fiona.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. And I'm just going to, I realized I don't have my chat showing. Where are you guys? There we go. Okay, so if anybody is in the chat, feel free to leave a comment or a question as we're going along, and Fiona will be happy to respond. So, Fiona, I'm so happy and excited to have you here today. I know many people struggle to understand what their bunnies are trying to communicate, and you have such a compassionate, practical way of helping people get to the heart of what's really going on. So, let's just start out with asking, a lot of people are wondering, like, how do you become, and how did you become, what led you to be a bunny behavior expert?
So it's just happened over time, really. So I've always had bunnies. I've been a bunny slave my entire life. And when my kids were little, we got bunnies again. And we had a little bit of a gap where we had no bunnies, and then we had the kids and we had bunnies again. And then we couldn't find somebody to look after our bunnies when we went on holiday. So we thought, well, other people must have the same problem. So we started offering rabbit boarding. And yes, lots of people had the same problem. So people started coming to us for rabbit boarding. Rabbits are very specialist creatures. They're very sensitive. They hide their pain very well. They can go downhill very fast. So you really want to make sure that they're with somebody who knows what they're talking about. And there just really didn't seem to be very many places that offered that. There was lots of dog kennels and catteries, but nothing really for small animals. So we called it the rabbit rooms because we thought it would be rabbits mostly, and it is. But we also board guinea pigs, pygmy hedgehogs, tortoises. We had a giant tortoise wandering around our garden last year for much of the
Oh,
summer. She was 80 years old.
oh, wow.
Birds sometimes. Lizards. We don't take snakes. We don't take ferrets because they are predators. And no cats and no dogs. But most other things in cages and pens. So hamsters and gerbils and that kind of stuff as
Oh,
well.
so you're really feeling the
So that
need
was
there.
in
Yeah.
yeah. So people ring up and say, "Will you take this? And we take that." And you're, okay, yeah, sure.
And you are
So
probably, people can figure out, you're in Ireland, right? You're,
yes, we're in Dublin. Yes, so we're called the Rabbit Rooms. So we started in 2014, and it grew from there. I was part-time child minding as well as doing that, and then now this is my full-time job. I'm so lucky to be doing it
wow.
full-time. And then in 2016, one of my customers came to me and said, "Can you bond my rabbits for me? I've got two rabbits and they're just killing each other." And I was like, "Look, I know the theory of it, but I've never done it. But if you want to bring them to me, I'll give it a go and we'll see what we can do." And I did, and it worked. And so we started offering bonding as one of our services. We also do a bit of in-house pet sitting, so chickens and cats and that kind of stuff in their own homes. And we do grooming. And the bonding then and the online classes all began during COVID. So people started getting a second rabbit during COVID. They sort of realized their bunny was lonely on their own and they were going to go back to work at some point. So they got a second rabbit. But then it's not as simple as just putting two rabbits together. They should be in pairs. But they are territorial. So they'll often fight to begin with. And so you have to go through this dating process called bonding where you persuade them to be friends and you watch their behavior and you allow some behaviors because they have to work out who's dominant and who's submissive before they can even think about being friends. The hierarchy is so important to them. So you have to go through all that and then they fall in love after that. So you have to do it without them injuring each other. So you have to know when to step in and how to step in to encourage that beautiful bond between them. And then you get a pair of rabbits that are grooming and snuggling and really happy together and living as they should be.
And
so I started offering
to her. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to welcome.
It's Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Yes, and it's so crazy because Lisa knows you, and I know Lisa through YouTube, and she's in Ireland, but she knows you. It's just sort of very interesting how that isn't that amazing.
We were talking about her earlier, weren't we?
It's crazy.
Common denominator. It's mad.
Yeah, amazing.
So then over COVID, then I started offering phone consultations for people who are trying to bond their rabbits themselves. And then I started doing classes because everybody was bored during COVID. And I kept getting asked the same questions over and over with the owners that come to us and also on Facebook groups that I moderated. So I started doing classes for bunny care and guinea pig care. And now I have an online bunny club where the classes are housed, but also there's an amazing community and we do live fun events like we did a book club at the weekend, and we have vets coming in to talk to us about different issues and stuff like that. So so that's where that's all grown from. I still do the boarding and the bonding as well.
Okay, so yes, definitely a small world. So crazy. And if you're in Ireland, check out Lisa's group, the Missing Stolen Animals Ireland group. It seems
amazing
very, very important. Yeah. So I don't have, other than as an animal communicator, and maybe a little bit of helping people with some acupressure massage things, but most of my clients are dogs and cats and things like that when it comes to that's my background. So the only thing is, I will tell you, I had a terrible experience where I can understand what people go through because a very long time ago, I decided to get two rabbits. I think I was going to get one, and then they said I don't remember exactly how it happened. They were like, they needed a home, and I ended up with two. And then I had to learn all this stuff. And it was like influx of information. Like, oh my gosh, this is a lot more than I ever thought. And had them very briefly and took them to get, now, is it called spayed with rabbits?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they called and said that they both didn't make it. And they were
no.
This is a thing, they said. I don't know if that's totally true. Like, I kind of left it at the time. It was kind of traumatic, and I didn't. But the woman was like, "This happens like sometimes. Like, I don't know if that's something." Not that we want to go there right now. Maybe not start off with the worst case scenario. But I'm telling you, my knowledge of rabbits. So it is another world.
Yeah, so they should be spayed, particularly females should be spayed because they're very prone to reproductive cancers. So something like 80% of female rabbits by age 4 will develop reproductive cancers. And given that rabbits can live to 10 or 12 years of age, then it really extends their lifespan. They're also very prone to behavioural issues. And if you want to bond rabbits, they need to both be neutered or spayed in advance. So females are spayed, males are neutered, because otherwise the hormones just get in the way too much with them being territorial. So there is a risk of the anaesthetic. They can be sensitive to the anaesthetic, but with a rabbit savvy vet, the risk is much, much lower. And it's rare enough now that will happen, but it does happen occasionally, unfortunately.
Yeah. I will say this is a long time ago. I won't give away my age, but it was a while ago. So maybe things have changed. Maybe things are a little bit better.
Hopefully so.
Okay, so what do you find is the most difficult challenge that most rabbit parents face? Is it the bonding piece, or is it because do most people have two? Is that kind of a thing?
No, no. Well, I wouldn't say most people, but a lot of people would have to. And the problem with it is that they are told to get two rabbits together. They're told rabbits are better in pairs, and then they are sold, or they adopt, or they buy two. Hi Jay, that's one of my lovely bonding clients.
Welcome.
So they are. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. What was going to say?
Um,
Oh, so they're
wait.
told to get two.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they often get to, often as babies, and then what happens is the hormones kick in. They're getting on beautifully. The hormones kick in, and then all of a sudden they're killing each other. And people are not prepared for that because they're not educated about that. Because a lot of times the breeder or the person who's rehoming them or whatever won't say that this is a risk because they want people to take two. So
Right.
this is the scenario that I deal with an awful lot. Boys particularly will 99.99% of the time fall out, and they can really injure each other. Those little balls of fluff can be very, very vicious.
Wow.
And they can really injure each other, and they can actually even kill each other, unfortunately, if they aren't stopped in time. And the problem is they can be absolutely fine, and then they can just ramp up into a fight out of nowhere. So you're not always necessarily there when it happens, and you don't necessarily have any warning, or people don't know the warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the situations that I deal with is people who have bought two rabbits or adopted two baby rabbits, and they have fallen out, and then realize they have to get them neutered, and then they have to wait 8 weeks for the hormones to die down, and then they need to go through this rebonding process. And a lot of times people think that they can just put them back together and they'll be fine. But what they had was what they call a baby bond, and as adults, they need to work out their hierarchy. They may have a grudge against each other. They're worse than elephants, and they remember. So they have
Wow.
to be gotten over the grudge, and then they have to be reminded that they loved each other. So I would say probably 60% of the 270 plus bonds that I've done are actually rebonding in those kind of situations. So that's very, very common.
Wow, that's fascinating that they
Mhm.
hold a grudge like that and that so what would be an example that you've seen of that where they've held a grudge?
Well, just a lot of the pairs that come into me are in that situation. So I'm either bonding for people who have one rabbit and then get a second rabbit, and then the rabbits don't get on. And then it's not as simple as they thought it was, and it's more time consuming, or one rabbit free roams completely around the house and feels like they own the house. And the owners think it would be better for them to come to me with neutral territory and start afresh, and then I support them through the rest of the process once they get them home. I put in 40 or 50 hours across the week of bonding, and they're coexisting and hopefully grooming and snuggling by the time they go home. And then, so that's one scenario. And then the other scenario is where the rabbits have fallen out as baby bonds. So I've bonded lots of bunnies that have really badly injured each other. They've ripped each other's ears. There was one pair that one of them had a permanent limp because he'd been got so badly by the brother, but they still managed to be rebonded, and they went home happy, and they lived happily ever after
Oh,
until they died a lot later of old age. So
well,
that was
that's
that was a
good.
nice scenario. And then on the flip side, there was the pair of rabbits that I knew that were kind of getting at each other when they came into us for boarding, and they were young boys, and they were at each other. And I thought, if they're at each other here, they must be at each other at home. But of course, here there's other rabbits around, and that kind of exacerbates it sometimes.
Okay.
And I did speak to the owner. Unfortunately, she didn't get the neutered in time, and one did actually kill the other one. So
Oh,
it really is very serious, and it really does need to be. We're trying to spread awareness about it because it really does need to be looked at. And just because they're fine now, it doesn't mean they'll be fine in an hour, a week, a day, a month.
my
They
goodness.
really need to
Yeah.
be separated as babies. And it's a shame because people get them for company for each other and think, that's grand, I have a setup for two rabbits. They're going to
Yeah.
live happily ever after. And then they have to have two separate setups, and then they have to go through all the rebonding. It's just a nightmare.
Wow. Is there a
Yeah.
situation where they clearly know what like XYZ happened and the family's like, well, this happened and now there's this like there's this grudge or this memory and you had like
hmm
what did you do in that situation to is it just separation or
Yeah, so they have to be separated, and then they have to be neutered, and then they have to wait 8 weeks for the hormones to die down. So if you imagine that they fall out quite often before they're old enough to be neutered, that's kind of the wrong side of it as well.
uh,
Because they could start to fall out when they're kind of 10, 12, 14 weeks old, and a lot of vets won't neuter them before 6 weeks. So, or sorry, 6 months. So they're kept apart then for 3 months, and then another 2 months after neutering. That's if you can get a neuter date. So you could be looking at your rabbits being separate for 6 months, and then in the meantime, what can happen is they can be really determined to get into each other, and they can jump into each other's pens and they can fight, and it's just an awful logistic for people to be dealing with because they're constantly trying to keep them from getting into each other. They're having to have two separate setups. They're having to split
Gosh.
their time and their attention and their free roam space for the rabbits, and they feel
Right.
bad about that because the rabbits are only getting half the free roam time they'd like them to have, but they're doing their best, and that's the best they can do in that scenario. It's only temporary, and then when we get them rebonded, then it's a completely different scenario. So that's good.
Wow. So it sounds like Lisa had found you because her bunny, oh no, 'cause when she was little, she had one, the unfortunate scenario you mentioned, and then found you after
Oh,
she had one that she,
sorry,
did she have
traumatic.
one? I would, I, after I had Rocco a while, otherwise I would have gotten another rabbit to bond with him.
Rocco's gorgeous.
Okay. So did you keep Rocco, Lisa, or did you, I'm a little confused. You
So she, yeah,
probably,
so
it
she,
sounds like,
yeah, so she
she
had a
can,
pair of bunnies when they were younger, where one killed the other one, and now when she was younger, now she has just Rocco on his own, and she
oh,
didn't go
okay.
down the bonding route because she didn't know about me, and
Oh,
then she didn't have company, a
yeah.
help to bond. But Rocco's very well loved. I know how adored he is,
Oh.
and he has a lot of human company, and he's fine.
So who's a bunny? Like a lot of people watching, we definitely want to answer. If anyone is here and you have questions, please let us know. Um,
Hmm.
so maybe if you could tell us a few key signs that a bunny might be stressed or unhappy, things to look
Hmm.
out for.
Hmm. Sure. So rabbits they can be aggressive. That's another scenario that I come across quite a lot where the rabbits are aggressive. And every time somebody puts their hand into the cage or the pen, the rabbit is lunging at them. And they can be afraid. I find rabbits when they're hormonal and they're not neutered that they can be quite um, very anxious. I suppose like us with PMT, right? If that's what your rabbit is like all the time if it's hormonal. Um, so that's another scenario, and sometimes they can attack out of fear, but the aggression is quite often because they're riddled with hormones. So what people will often say is that the rabbit is fine, it's a beautiful rabbit, it loves to be picked up, it's everything, it's beautiful, it's happy, it's fine, and then overnight it's like flip switches, and then they are switch flips, and then it's like they have a personality transplant, and it's because
Wow.
the hormones have kicked in.
Okay.
So in that scenario, they appear very unhappy because they're lunging all the time. They don't want to be touched. They don't want you near them. A stressed rabbit will often sit hunched in the corner, or maybe staring at the wall, but that can be obviously signs of other things as well. It can be signs of, as you say, stress, or they can be unwell. They hide their signs of illness very well, and sometimes until it's too late. So it is really important to be aware of what is normal rabbit behavior and what your rabbit is normally like. So I always recommend to people that they do a weekly healthcare check. They get their rabbit used to being picked up because a lot of people online say, don't pick up your rabbit. They're prey animals. They shouldn't be picked up. And yes, they don't love it naturally because they associate us, I suppose, with something bigger that's swooping down and picking them up. But they can be trained to get used to that. And it's really important that you do because you have to clip their nails. You have to help them if they're molting when they're grooming, because otherwise they ingest all the fluff and that's dangerous for their GI tract. So you should be able to pick them up and do a weekly healthcare check their teeth, their skin, their ears, check around their genitals. Have they got poop stuck to their bum? Does anything look, weird? Is there any signs of mites? Is there any lumps or bumps or cuts? And that combined with knowing what your rabbit's behavior is normally like can really help you to be on the ball and pick up any signs of illness very quickly or any signs of distress that need to be dealt with because they can go into what's called gut stasis very quickly if they're stressed. So that's where their guts shut down and it needs to be constantly moving. And if they stop eating or they stop pooping, so it goes in one out, in one end and out the other, if either of those things aren't happening, then there's something slowing down or stopped inside their gut and they can die within hours from that.
Oh my
So it's
gosh.
really important to know what to watch out for. Yeah. They're
Goodness.
very they're quite complex little creatures.
Right, they seem fragile, sort of. And Tara says, Fiona has worked wonders with my boy, such a calm and knowledgeable presence in what was a very stressful time for us. It sounds like it. Yeah,
Oh,
your knowledge
thanks,
seems
Tara. Happy to help.
immense. Yeah, they seem very, there's a fragility to them, it seems.
Yes.
But I can't even
Absolutely.
imagine people saying like, "Well, don't pick them up." Like, well, what's then the point? I mean, that's kind of why.
Right. Yes, yes. And the irony of it all is that a lot of them actually do quite like a cuddle.
Yeah.
I find that we find that when a lot of people come in for boarding, they'll say, "Oh, my rabbit doesn't like to be picked up; it hates it." But we have to pick them up to take them from the pet room out to the garden in the runs in the summertime. And when we pick them up, because we're confident about it, a lot of the rabbits kind of snuggle into us, and they are
Hmm.
loving that
And
cuddle.
they,
And a lot of them do
oh,
cuddle once they feel secure. And I think it's sad when the owners and the
yeah.
bunnies miss out on that bond, that closeness of a bond. It's a much closer bond than even if you sit on the floor with them. If you can pick them up and carry them around and when you need to or do what you need to do, they have
Hmm.
complete trust in you because they know you're looking after them and you'll clip their nails and all that kind of stuff. And it's a much closer bond. So I'm a big believer in against the rhetoric there.
Yeah, definitely. And they're so cute and cuddly. Like, why would you not want to? I mean, I don't know how anyone could
Yeah.
resist it, first of all.
Yes. They don't all love a cuddle. To be fair, they don't all love a cuddle, but a lot of them do. If they don't, they can still be trained to get used to it.
Oh. Well, and Fiona, I'm sorry, Lisa had a couple questions. She said, "Do you have how do you feel about bunnies being sold in pet shops?"
Mhm. Don't love it at all. I think that they're usually in a very small space when they're in the pet shop. They can be there for months on end. They're not getting much time and attention because the shop is busy, and they're having kids coming in and poking at them, and they don't get any time to stretch their legs. Rabbits ought to be in at least a 2 meter by 3 meter space, and that's only for when they're penned in. They ought to be able to be free roam and binky, which is where they jump in the air and twist because they're happy, and
Mm-hmm.
hop around and stretch up on their back legs and periscope and look around them. They love doing all that. They can't do
Oh,
those things in a cage. So from that point of view, I also think that the pet shops often, now they're not all like that, but a lot of them, they don't know enough about rabbits or they don't make sure that the setup is right, that the people are taking them. It can be an impulse buy.
mm-hmm.
And I was in a pet shop actually the weekend and they had this beautiful pair of rabbits. One of them is an Angora kind of type of rabbit. It's very
Ooh,
fluffy. The other one looks quite big, like I think it's some sort of a giant rabbit or, a mix maybe. This is their third time back in the pet shop.
oh,
So, and
gosh.
they're not more than about 6 months of age. So, and
Oh,
they're very sweet bunnies. I put my hand in and stroke them and everything. They're very sweet bunnies, but they keep being returned, and that's not fair because they do get
right.
attached and they like their surroundings to be secure and they like
Yeah.
things the way they like things. So any
Uh-huh.
kind of change can really upset them. So
Yeah.
I just don't think you can do the checks that you need to do from pet shops really. So, and a lot of the staff, of course, are part time and they don't necessarily have the interest or the knowledge to give the right information. A lot of stuff sold in pet shops isn't suitable for rabbits at all, and they tend to say, "Here, have a rabbit. This is the cage. This is fine. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
bag of food, and it's a muesli mix when it should be pellets. Here's treats, and they're covered in honey and seeds, not suitable for them at all."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're sent home with, and then the owners wonder why they're ending up with vet bills because they trusted what the pet shop told them. And of course they think they
Right.
know what they're talking about, but they don't. So the things I've heard are horrible.
Oh,
I've
goodness.
never ceased to be amazed by what pet shops tell people.
Gosh. Um, what is the worst thing you could give a rabbit that you could tell us? Like, what's something common that people are either feeding or letting them snack on that you would say this is what they should be having as instead?
So two things. One is the muesli food. So if you feed your rabbit one of those brightly coloured muesli mixes, it looks attractive and we think, oh, this is great, that looks really tasty. The rabbits I don't think can see in that many colours, so I don't think they really care about that. And the problem with it is it's selective feeding. So they'll pick out the bits they like and they'll leave the bits they don't like. So they're not getting a complete diet. And they are, whereas if you buy a pellet food, each individual pellet has all the nutrients that it needs in it. And they're often also filled with things that are not suitable for rabbits. Things like corn shouldn't be in, right? Rabbits shouldn't be fed corn. So that's the other thing that I see quite often. People coming in with a piece of corn on the cob for the rabbits, and sometimes it's a
Okay.
cooked piece of corn on the cob that you buy in a vacuum pack in the pet shops. But they shouldn't be fed corn because it just gets stuck in their digestive tract, and then if it passes through, it goes out the way it came in. But
Yeah.
it's very risky for their system. They can eat the little corns, the baby sweet corns that you get for stir fries. They
Hmm.
love those, and those are fine because they can chew them up really small. But actual corn on the cob or corn pieces, no.
Okay. And Lisa was asking, would Fiona recommend rabbits to be brought into the home for young children?
That's a great question. So my girls had rabbits when they were young. I think they were they I think they were 3 and 1 actually. We got a rabbit and a guinea pig for them. And back then I didn't know as much about rabbits as I do now. That's going back 20 years. Things have changed a lot since I was first a rabbit owner when I was a kid and when my girls were little. And now, you don't see rabbits, or hopefully you don't see rabbits stuck in a hutch down the garden and on their own and
Right.
fed carrots and not fed enough hay and that kind of stuff. So I had to do a lot of relearning at that stage about how things are changing. All the time, the welfare standards are changing, which is just amazing, and people are really listening to it, which is fantastic. But they did have the pets when they were little, but they were for me really, or me and the girls. So I think if you're going to have a rabbit for young children, I think you have to really want the rabbit because, as we've talked about already, there's an awful lot of work in them,
Yeah.
and it's very easy. It's very easy for kids to go, and I can't be bothered doing that, and forget to feed them, or they want to be out playing instead, and they don't really understand the gravity of, well, the rabbit needs its dinner at a certain time, and to be fed regularly, and because that is very important for the digestive tract as well, that they're kept on routine as far as possible. And of course, small children are inclined to pick rabbits up when maybe they're given the vibes that they don't want to be picked up. They might squeeze them. So I think they can be great for kids if the adult wants them to and they're prepared to take on the responsibility. And you're not going to say in 3 years' time, well, the kids are bored now, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested. And unfortunately, I hear a lot of that. The kids are bored, and I think people don't always realize that they can be a 10 to 12 year commitment, and they think that they only live for 3 or 4 years, and then the kids are going off to college or they're in secondary school and they've got sports after school, and they
Right.
don't have the time in the same way. So it needs to be, I think, a family pet,
Mm-hmm.
or family pets, ideally for two together, where they're taught how to look after them, and how to handle them properly and that. So otherwise, I think they can be great for kids because I think it's great for the mental health. My girls have been so into the animals their whole lives, and if they're having a stressful day, they'll go and talk to the bunnies and give them a cuddle. And I always say to my husband, there's worse things they could be into because he's like,
Right.
but like they could be out on the streets dealing
Right.
drugs.
Right.
So so I think it's a great hobby for them to be in if they love their bunnies, and they can be encouraged to keep interested in the one. In my bunny club, I do have sections suitable for the kids. I don't do jargon in my classes because I want older kids and teenagers to be able to understand them. And I think especially if the parents will sit and watch the videos with them, then they can learn together how to care for the bunnies.
Oh, that's
And we have
great.
colouring sheets and activities and that go in every month for them to help keep them interested. And we do a journal. There's a journal they can print out where they can tick off their chores for the bunnies, or they can put photographs of their bunnies in, and
That's
keep
great.
little records of what they're feeding them and that. And I think all that helps encourage to keep them interested as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's terrific. And it's just so everyone knows that's um on your website is
Yeah. Fiona'sHappyBunnyClub.com.
okay. And I'll put that in the description too. So
Thank
you
you.
have
Great. Yes.
classes that people can take whenever they
Hmm.
want, or are
Yeah.
they like
Yes,
kind
they're
of
on demand classes. So
okay.
there's a lot of care classes. So if you need to learn how to handle your bunny, or how to do their nails, or how to litter train your bunny, that's all in there. And then there's also more advanced kind of classes where you can teach them a trick, or you can do agility where they jump over jumps, and lots of enrichment classes because they're
Ah,
very smart and it's good to keep them busy. And if they're bored, they get destructive. So
right.
there's a lot of those kind of classes in it. But then there's also the community. We have a Facebook group with that where there's no judgment allowed. There's no such thing as a stupid question. A lot of the Facebook groups for rabbits are actually really judgy, and people come on and criticize, and then people are afraid to ask questions, and they
Oh,
wouldn't be asking if they didn't want to know. So I think that's really important, that people are welcomed and they're allowed to ask the questions, and we're all learning all the time because these rabbits are so complex. I'm still
right.
learning. You will never know everything there is to know about them. So I think people should be able to ask the questions, And then we have lots of live events where we meet once a month on Zoom and have a chat, or we do a book club. And then we have Ask the Experts coming in, like vets and rabbit groomers and rescuers coming in to talk to us about their work with rabbits. So it really helps deepen your knowledge and your bond with your bunny as well.
Right, definitely. It sounds very in depth and all encompassing. It sounds like an amazing resource, and so
I
I'll
try.
definitely I'll have that link in the description.
Thank you.
Um,
Yes.
so it sounds like there is an issue for people from what I've seen online, like a lot of things with chewing, maybe wires or furniture, things like that. So how can people help redirect
Right.
that, or what can we do
Earphone.
about that?
1 second.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Hang on. Hold on. No. Dropped it. Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
You're good.
Okay, hold on. Let's turned it up again. Hold on. There we go. Redirecting about chewing furniture and stuff. Okay, so it's a very natural behavior of rabbits to dig and to chew. So one of the best things you can do is give them something that they can do those things with. Otherwise, yes, it will be your furniture. Or wires, spicy hay we call it in the rabbit community, where they just love to chew the wires. So there's in some ways there's not a whole lot you can do because it's their natural behaviors, but you can bunny proof. You can get wire covers. You can get covers for the furniture for the chairs of your leg chairs of your legs of your chairs, and those kind of things. You can get things to protect your skirting boards, and then that combined with supervising them and also giving them something else to do can make a big difference. So providing them with a dig box, for example, creating a dig box that they're allowed to dig in the house and keeps them interested, and giving them safe chews like branches or safe toys that they can chew on, can really help redirect them. There is a study recently that said that rabbits that don't eat enough hay tend to chew more.
Okay.
So one of the best things that you can actually do is make sure they're eating enough hay. So they should be eating a ball the size of their body every day. And a lot of people wouldn't give them that much hay. So that makes a big difference. Their diet should be like at least 80% hay, so that keeps their digestive tract flowing properly.
Wow.
Because it's full of fiber and also wears down their teeth, which are constantly growing. So if they eat enough hay, that can apparently help with distracting them from chewing as well, that they just are less inclined to.
Yeah.
And of course they do go through phases where, because their teeth are growing, that they're wanting to chew things as well, so that's where the branches and things like that can be really helpful as well.
Wow. So an amount of hay the size of their body.
Yes.
Wow. And so
Yes.
the teeth constantly grow. That's such an interesting fact. They just, their whole life, their teeth keep growing.
Yes.
This is going to sound
Can
like
you hear me?
dumb. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just got a bit fuzzy there. Sorry, gone.
That's okay. So do
Yeah.
people themselves, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a dumb question. Okay, let's just put it like this. So what do you do about the teeth that constantly grow? How is that?
So they shouldn't need anything doing to it except them getting enough hay. But it depends on their genetics. So their back teeth can be worn down with hay, but they have to be aligned properly, and so do their front teeth. And if you get a mixed breed rabbit, which a lot of bunnies in Ireland actually are, like if you look at the actual breeds of rabbits, that's quite uncommon in Ireland. A lot of them are mixes, especially since COVID, where there was a lot of backyard breeders that just put any two rabbits together and didn't really care. They were just selling the bunnies. And what can happen is if they're a mix of two different breeds, like a lop and a dwarf or something, that their head shape can be different, and so their teeth don't align properly, so they can't wear them down. Or sometimes they just have genetic predisposition to them having a teeth issue, where they just grow misaligned. So the front teeth they can actually take out if they can regularly wear them down in the vets if you need to clip them down. But if you have to go in every 2 or 3 weeks, then it's better to get them taken out altogether, because that's a lot of expense and a lot of stress for the bunny going backwards and forwards to the vet as well.
Right.
And they can learn to do without those front teeth. They just learn to push their food back towards the back of their mouths, and if you give them vegetables, you probably need to chop them up a bit smaller. But they can live fine without it. The back teeth the same. They can get spurs on them where they sort of overgrow, where they can be at an angle where they're growing different angles, and they're not being worn down properly because they're not grinding against each other. So hay can definitely help in a lot of those cases because they wear it down and then it doesn't get too bad and it's manageable. But they can go in for dental work as well for that if they need to, or have the teeth removed. They try not to remove the back ones if they can help it, but they can burr them down in the under anaesthetic. But again, it's an anaesthetic or sedation for them, so that's
Yeah.
not ideal either. It's
Right.
possible to avoid it with enough hay. Hey,
Okay.
hey.
And along those lines of breeds, Fiona, do you have a favorite breed of rabbit?
I do. I do. I'm very biased. I love mini Rex rabbits. So Rex rabbits are, they have a really velvety coat. They have a double short coat. So most rabbits have a short coat and a long coat,
Okay.
and that's what gives them kind of the fluffy kind of texture. But Rex rabbits have a double short coat, which gives them this velvet feel. So unfortunately, they're the kind of rabbits that they used to make gloves and things like that
Oh,
out of. Much nicer than a real rabbit that's alive and kicking. But
yeah.
it's super, super soft. They're a great mix of rabbit, I think, because they quite often love a cuddle.
Oh,
And I just lost my baby Tango there a few weeks ago.
oh,
I say my
I'm
baby, but he
so
was 11 and a
sorry.
half. But he was an orange mini Rex, so he's this bright orange coat and this velvet coat, and he loved to cuddle.
Oh,
He would sit onto my chin for a couple of hours at a time and watch TV. But they're also active and busy and nosy. Some breeds of rabbit are quite relaxed and just kind of really want to sit there. Some are very active. Some don't like being picked up. Some do like being cuddled. And I think that the Rex is just a really good combo of the two. So most of the
okay.
time, of course, you
Hmm.
can never things with dogs or whatever. It's never always in the bag like
Right.
that. But
Yeah.
they're my favorite. Yeah.
And where, okay, since pet shops generally aren't good for most animals, where do you tend to recommend people get rabbits?
So very much at the minute, adopt, don't shop because there's. I've lost the other side of my house. Sorry.
I can still hear you.
Oh, good, good, good. Yes, so there is an awful lot of rabbits needing homes in rescues around the world. At the moment, there's a big problem with them being dumped
Ugh.
worldwide because what happened with COVID was a lot of breeders or a lot of people who didn't even used to breed and then decided to breed, and the rabbits just bred and bred and bred. And then after COVID, unfortunately, a lot of them got dumped because
Mm,
people went back to work
right.
and sometimes the rabbits were fighting. I talked to a rescue the other day and they had found two rabbits together, which they thought, oh, these must have been dumped together. But as soon as they put them in together, they were fighting. So that's probably why they were dumped. And again, probably somebody didn't know that they should have got them neutered and had to rebond them and all that, or wasn't prepared for that. So again, a lot goes back to education when people are first getting their rabbits, that they do as much education or as they can or research themselves, but also that they're educated by whoever is rehoming, even if it means that they can't home two rabbits together, that they don't end up back in the shelter and dumped. But there's a big problem with dumped rabbits around the world. So definitely adopt, don't shop at the minute. There are some good breeders out there. So I don't like dissing breeders in general. I think there's a lot of bad breeders out there, same as there is with dogs.
Hmm.
But there are good breeders. I do know of a few good breeders who really do care about their rabbits. They care about the genetics. They care about where the parent rabbits come from and they make good matches, and then they educate the owners to um to make sure they know what they're getting into, and that can be a good starting place for somebody if they, I think sometimes, especially if you've got kids, you might particularly want a baby rabbit. But there are plenty of baby rabbits and rescues as well, and really that's where you should be going first and foremost, if at all possible. Because a lot of these rabbits actually don't have, unlike dogs that have a lot of, often you adopt a dog and you don't know what you're getting and what they're going through, what
Hmm.
they've been through, and what their behavior is like, and have they got issues. Rabbits in a lot of ways don't tend to be like that. I tend to find that a lot of rabbits that we have helped rehome or we have come to us for boarding, actually are the sweetest bunnies, and you're kind of going, why did somebody dump you? Because you're
Yeah.
very sweet.
Oh.
I even had one in for bonding last week, and it's the sweetest little thing. And they do think that she was neglected, and yet she's just like, "Hi, talk to me, hi."
Oh.
She just keeps wanting the love, and it's just lovely. And I
Oh.
think the people who are dumping them probably haven't spent any time with them, otherwise they wouldn't have dumped them because they're so lovely. So when you adopt from a shelter, then you are quite likely to get a rabbit that's not been through a whole lot or is quite forgiving, I suppose. But a
Hmm.
good rest will also help match you to match a rabbit to your home situation, I suppose, and help you find the right rabbit for you. The rabbits will always be neutered and vaccinated, usually from a reputable rescue, and that's very expensive. So that can really be a much more cost-effective way to do it. And then you often get follow-up help as well afterwards, which you don't get from a breeder usually.
Mm.
So they often are, able to give you advice if you need it, or you can ring them at any point and say, I'm having a problem, and can you help me with this? And they would take the rabbit back if you decided that it wasn't working out. Whereas a lot of breeders won't do that
Hmm.
either. So really, adoption is the best bet. But there are some good breeders out there too.
Okay. So also, I know that they can people have said that there's like eating issues sometimes, like where they can be picky about eating. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
That there can be
Mm-hmm.
problems with that?
It can be, they can get into bad habits, I suppose. And a lot of people tend to feed rabbits with, well, they like that, so I'm just going to keep feeding them that. So they like the muesli, so I'm going to feed them that. They like the corn, they like the honey and seed treats from the pet shop. And then the rabbit ends up with health issues because their diet isn't correct. Um, but and they can be quite stubborn. So if I say to a rabbit owner, your rabbit isn't eating enough hay, they really need to be eating more hay, and are they eating a ball the size of their body every day? And they say no. I'll say, right, okay, well, you need to cut back on the pellets, you need to cut back on the vegetables, you need to cut back on the treats, because this is the most important thing. Sometimes the rabbit will still refuse the hay, even if that's all they have in front of them. They'll be like, no, I'm not eating that. And of course, the owners then worry about gut stasis and that kind of stuff. So you do have to kind of gently interrupt their routine, I suppose, and gently change things up for them so that it's a gradual changeover and it's not too much of a shock to their system where you might upset their digestive tract. But usually you just have to out stubborn them. They are stubborn, but you have to be more stubborn than you are. It's tough love, like it is when you have a toddler. I just think they're furry toddlers, basically.
It does sound like there's a lot to take into consideration and to prep for before you get a bunny. You really
Yes,
need to, yeah.
absolutely.
So check out
Yes.
Fiona's website and do that before you adopt. Um, so, and what about litter box issues? So they have like, do they use cat litter kind of, or do they use dirt or what, sand, or what do they
Yeah.
use?
Yeah, so you can absolutely litter train a rabbit. They are very naturally clean animals. They want to be clean. A lot of my customers, for example, would live in apartments and the rabbits free roam and they use a litter box. So they're not in a pen or a cage, or they're only in a pen overnight or something. So they can be litter trained. They're easier litter trained if they're neutered, because a lot of it is territorial behavior where they're pooping and weeing places. And then when you're using litter, I always recommend the wood pellets. So the cat wood pellets is fine, but there is cat litter, which is the clumping cat litter. It's kind of like clay. That's really dangerous for rabbits, because if they eat that, that's going to clog their systems and get stuck and cause a blockage. So it needs to be the pellets. Or you can use hay, or some people use puppy pads with hay over the top. Or there's paper. There's a paper kind of pellet that you can get as well.
Okay, so lots of options. And what are some ways people can, other than just trying to pick them up, like what can people do to help strengthen that bond, develop that bond with their bunnies
Hmm.
throughout life?
So yeah, I think a lot of it is spending time with your bunny and watching their behaviors. And I think this is how I really got into the rabbit behaviorist. This is how you were asking me earlier on. I think really from spending so much time watching rabbits, especially when they're bonding, has really led me to be able to read their behaviors and know what they're thinking, really. And you can do that with your bunny as well. One of the best things you can do is sit on the floor with your rabbit and spend time with them, even if you're just sitting on the floor watching TV or reading a book, letting the rabbit come to you on their own terms, and sometimes giving them a little treat when they come over to you, or giving them a little pet, and they gradually start to realize that you're not a dangerous thing and that you actually are a provider of good things.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the best things that you can do for your bond with your rabbit, is to do that. But also things like knowing their routine, giving them the right things, giving them the treats that they like to eat that are safe for them, and then things like teaching them tricks, or making toys for them, homemade toys for them, or providing enriching activities for them can really increase their bond with you because you play with them. Like rabbits love to play with baby toys, for example. So a lot of people would give them stacking cups like babies have, and they'd put pellets in them, and the rabbits toss them around to find where the pellets are. And they love baby keychains, so they have to be the ones that don't have electronics or the ice gel in them. They have to just be plastic keychains, but they love flinging them around. Those are the kind of things that you can play with your rabbit that actually makes them think that you're a rabbit and you're their buddy, really helps the bond.
Yeah. Okay. And I have to ask you, is because this is a show about animal communication, have you had any times when you just felt like you just knew something about a bunny that you just knew?
Yeah, I think sometimes as a boarder, we pick up on a lot of things that the owners don't pick up on because they don't have anything to compare it to. So, especially if they're newer bunny owners, they might not realize that there's something not right with their bunny. And we just know really from their body language and how they're behaving and their eating habits. I'm not sure that I really would be au fait with the communication the way that you do it. I'm very interested to learn more about that, but I definitely think that I go with my gut with the rabbits an awful lot, and usually if there's something not right, I know about it, and getting them to the vet would normally confirm that. So there's things like we've picked up one of the rabbits had a heart issue, and the owners hadn't realised, and spelling it again. um, I just knew from the way the rabbit was breathing and the way it was behaving that there was something not right. And one of our own rabbits had a heart issue. So I kind of thought, yeah, that looks like the same thing to me. I'm not a vet, but got them to the vet. And yes, lo and behold, it was a heart issue. And the owner was very appreciative because they hadn't realized that there was something not right with the bunny. So quite often we would pick up those kind of things, or respiratory issues, or teeth problems, or dealing with things like poopy bum, so the rabbits have two types of poop. They have the little balls that you see around the place, and then they have this sticky kind of grape-like poop that they eat from their own anuses. So they redigest it, and you never usually see it. You never usually see it. They just get on and do it. It's fine. But they redigest it for the extra nutrients. And but if you pick up your rabbit and your rabbit has poop stuck to their bum, that's very abnormal. It shouldn't be like that because they should eat those cecotropes. So normally that's a problem with they're overweight and they can't reach to eat them, or they have arthritis and they can't reach to eat them, or their diet is completely wrong, or sometimes they just have a really sensitive digestive tract through genetics. And sometimes owners wouldn't realize that that kind of thing wasn't normal and that it can be dealt with and it should be avoided because it doesn't need to happen.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure you do. I'm sure that you are intuitively picking stuff up all the time. Um, and just seeing if there's anyone in the chat asking any questions. Okay, no. So anything else that we didn't talk about that you think is just important that people need to be aware of, or, just little tidbits, anything that we missed?
Hmm. Well, I think that's really the most important thing. I think that they should have a friend, but be aware of how much work the bonding is and get help if you need it. A lot of the rescues will actually bond for you, not in Ireland. I don't think it's a thing that they offer, but in the UK and America, a lot of the rescues will find a friend for your rabbit and bond for you and do some of the work with you, for you. But if you get them home and you haven't got going home instructions or support once you get them home, give me a shout because I do
Yeah.
offer that service, because sometimes people don't know how far the rabbits have got when they've been bonding and they can't get hold of the rescues because the rescues are so busy. And then people are like, what do I do now? Can I give them free roam time? Can I expand the space? Can I add the litter trays now? There's a lot of kind of stuff like that. So they should have a friend. That's the first and foremost thing, if at all possible. But at the same time, if your rabbit lives in the house with you as part of the family and there's somebody there a lot of the day, they can be perfectly fine. They can be very bonded to their families. It's not the same for them as communicating with another rabbit in their own language. But I don't think it's always feasible for people to bond rabbits. They don't always have the time or the money or the space for two, or be able to do the bonding process. And or sometimes they have an older rabbit and you don't want to start bonding because then you're going to end up with a cycle of having rabbits. So I think they can be okay, but again, knowing your bunny's behavior and what's normal for them and what's normal for rabbits will tell you if your rabbit is happy or not happy. And the hay is very, very important. Drinking from a bowl is good, a good tip as well. They can use bottles, and bottles can be suitable depending on what your setup is, but they do drink more from a bowl. Rabbits do drink an awful lot of water, and using a big ceramic dog bowl for them, or a water fountain can be a really good way to get them to drink enough water, because again, if their gut gets dehydrated, it can slow down. So it is very important for them to get lots of water in them. And then vegetables have to be introduced very, very carefully. People sometimes think, well, it's a rabbit, it eats vegetables. But in the wild, it doesn't eat carrots and pak choy and things that we don't even grow in. Well, I'm in Ireland, so I mean, there's a lot of things we don't grow naturally, that a wild rabbit wouldn't eat. They eat a lot of grass and roots and things like that in the wild. So uh, because their systems are so fragile, they really need to be able to be introduced very slowly to vegetables, small amounts, very, very slowly, one thing at a time. And they need a good mix of vegetables as well. They shouldn't be fed the same thing over and over. That's something I see as well. Oh, my rabbit loves kale, but kale is very high in calcium, and they can end up with bladder stones or calcium sludge because they're getting too much calcium. So the veg should always be mixed up. And again, there's a class in that, my bunny club as well, if you want help with that.
Oh, okay, perfect. So, and also, I was kind of curious. Do you find that they do well with other animals like dogs, cats?
They can do. Quite often they end up boss. They boss around the cat or the dog, or they lunge at them and the dog or the cat goes, okay, you're the boss. I do have a lot of customers who have a rabbit and a dog, or a rabbit and a cat, and the introductions have to be done very carefully, and but they can be really good company for each other. Again, it's not the same as having a rabbit friend that they speak the same language to, but they can be very attached to each other. I know lots of people, and the rabbit even comes into us and it's missing its dog friend or its cat friend, so
Oh,
it's part of their routine. So
yeah.
once they're introduced properly, it can be very possible. Depends on the dog, of course, and the rabbit, and how the introductions are done.
Do a lot of people treat their bunnies like a dog or a cat, where they might even sleep with them, or is that too dangerous because they're too small?
Quite a few, yeah, quite a few, yeah, yeah. We've had quite a few come into us. They're like, I don't know how they're going to be with you because they're used to sleeping in my bed,
Yeah.
but they usually adjust fine because they've got the other rabbits to look at and it keeps them occupied and busy. But I'm sure they're happy to be back in the owner's bed. But yeah, a lot of people do.
And is it? I mean, I'm wondering, like, if a person goes away, I tend to, and even more so now, I'm thinking they're sort of these fragile beings. If somebody goes away and you have somebody coming in like to look after them, is that, do you have issues with that, or is it usually okay? Like,
It's usually okay, and it can be a good option because the rabbit can be its own surroundings and then its own routine as well. So, but again, it needs to be somebody who knows what they're doing with rabbits and who knows your rabbit, hopefully, and they've spent a bit of time with them and knows what to look out for. Because, if they come in only once a day and the rabbit is sitting in the corner, they might not realize that the rabbit's going into gut stasis and they might not be in again for 24 hours. So they need to be in at least once a day, if not twice a day. And ideally, if somebody can stay in your house, that can be great as well.
yeah.
And we check on them here very often. Our boarding is inside the house. Some people board in the garden, in sheds and whatever, but ours is inside the house, and it means that we're in and out all day checking on them, and they can be fine and then not fine within a couple of hours. So,
Wow.
it's very important that somebody knows what they're doing and what to watch out for.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Education, it seems like, is the key before you jump in. I know when I kind of jumped in, luckily we did have the place we adopted them from. They were very knowledgeable, and they were very. I remember we there was quite a bit to be
Great.
done that they advised us, but
Hmm.
then we had that unfortunate. We
Yeah.
won't talk about that. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
is there anything else that you just want to re-mention your site again, if anyone's just listening, even on the
Sure. Yeah.
podcast channels, which we do have also,
Yeah.
including YouTube?
Sure. Yeah. So on all the platforms, I am at Fiona Murphy, the Bunny Coach. So YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all Fiona Murphy, at Fiona Murphy, the Bunny Coach. And you can also look up FionaMurphyTheBunnyCoach.com, and on that page there's some nice freebies for you, whether you're bonding or you've got you want to know more about bunny care, there's some freebies that you can join there. And from that page, you can also go and look at my other services, the boarding, the bunny club, and the bonding options. If you need bonding help, I do offer bonding help around the world. Online, I do online help for people, and I've helped a lot of people around the world with bonding. All so there's lots of options on there you can have a look at.
Fantastic. Well, Fiona, you are a wealth of knowledge. I'm really impressed and amazed at just everything you know and that you've learned. And I forgot to do my little disclaimer at the beginning. It's a little late now, but we aren't vets here. So if your pet is having any, your rabbit, your dog, whatever, is having any health issues, make sure you take them to a vet, or just sudden behavioral changes,
Absolutely.
things like that.
Yes,
So,
always.
and also to anyone who's watching, please do make sure to check out Meesha's Heart Adventure, emotional. I don't even know the name of my own book. I'm sorry. Meesha's Heart Adventure, Emotional Regulation While Learning How Animals Think and Feel. I just went on, I blanked out there. It's available where all books are sold. And it also has accompanying music.
Beautiful.
You can get music that's streaming on all platforms. You can download it, or and you can find it on my website too,
Nice.
intuitivetouchanimalcare.com, where right now I do
Okay.
have and I have an October BOO 10 discount for Boo 10 for Halloween coming up for all my digital products. If anybody's interested, go to Intuitive Touch Animal Care, and that's my main website, and then go to Animal Intuitive Academy on that website, and you'll find all my products for sale versus my main website, which is individual sessions and massage and acupressure locally, as well as at a distance. I can create plans for your pets that you can do, and they're based on traditional Chinese medicine. You'll get your own charts and analysis of your animal based on traditional Chinese medicine. So I want to thank you again, Fiona, and thank you for everybody in the chat for being here. Please do
Thank you for your
subscribe.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And share this, and go check out the Buddy Coach. She's all over the, podcast, and check out, I was on her show recently too. So if you're interested, go check that out too. And this is lovely. Thank you so much. And everybody, God
Thank you.
bless and take care.
Rub my belly, rub my belly, rub my belly, my belly, my belly. Rub my belly, rub my belly, rub my belly, my belly, my belly. I like my ears rubbed.